They direct him to a parking lot. He parks the car, and the goon in the back seat raises a .22 to the back of Ken Eto's head, point blank range, fires 3 times into his head, and they flee the car.
Wow.
And is that the end of the story?
Oh my God.
No,
it
is not the end of the story. Hi, are you?
Hi.
How you doing?
How did you do it?
I said, hi, are you?
Hi.
Is this going to be in every episode
I don't
thing
know.
now?
I hope not.
I hope
Didn't
not.
like it the first time.
Yeah, really, that would be we'd be stuck pigs if that was it.
I'm okay. To answer your question.
Did I ask that? I don't recall already. So we're off to a strong start. How has your week been? Nothing but good news.
Well, personally, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I feel
so politics isn't personal to you.
Oh, God. Well, you know what I'm saying. How do we answer that now?
That's a good question.
In the year of our Lord, 2025.
Is it 2025 already?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was the freaking Stone Age with some of the ways we've been acting out here. Okay?
That's true.
Something that's been on my mind as we prepared for this week's episode is, what's been going on with ICE and the assaults.
Not the stuff you put in your water.
There's actually another ICE that is much worse.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah. This is a tough time, and I feel like this week's episode really, it's really sad and frightening in a way that a lot of the people of the 120,000 Japanese Americans who were interned during World War II, something that a lot of them said coming out of those concentration camps was that they knew it would happen again someday.
Oh,
right?
God. Mm-hmm.
And our subject this week is one of those men who came out of those camps and vowed it would never happen again to him and that he would never be locked up again by the U.S. government. The twist is that the way that he integrated back into American life was as a mafiosi.
Wow.
The only Japanese American member of the Chicago outfit. So while that's happening on the one hand, I feel like the story is a little broader than that in terms of, well, let me put it this way. You're a woman. Yes or no? And I'll remind you, you're under oath.
What do you mean by that?
Jordan Peterson time. What I mean is that I think another thing that is a big part of today's episode is if you're not a straight white male, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rising through the ranks of an institution, whether it's a corporation or, the mafia or the FBI.
Or getting this podcast.
A true crime podcast. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a woman, a Japanese American, someone else, even if you rise, are you fully trusted? Are you equal? Can you lean in?
Did you girl boss hard enough? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Can you ever really? Can you have it all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Women hold up half the sky. I learned this recently. And did that just make you a little
just
sick?
Cringe, just sick. Only half? Actually, it's probably 75%.
Yeah, the 25%.
Closer to 80.
Do you ever watch?
But then the men think it's equal, but it's
watch
not.
A documentary about lions. Male lions fucking do nothing. They do nothing.
I don't need to watch the documentary. I live it.
You don't,
I live it. I
right.
live it with this podcast too. Actually,
okay, wait a minute.
No. By the way, the gender split is flipped here. Dan's doing all the labor.
I'm the wife at home.
You're the wife.
Doing everything.
Yeah, I just roll in.
Yeah.
I just read Wikipedia and roll in. I'm ready.
Camera on me.
This isn't about gender. Not everything is about gender. It is for me, but...
I mean, also it is about gender.
Okay, it is. So let's get into the story.
Let's get into the story.
We'll show you how it's about gender.
Today's story is about Ken Eto, a.k.a. Tokyo Joe, the only Japanese-American member of the Chicago outfit, and the FBI agent who hunted him, Elaine Smith.
Who happened to be a woman.
Who's a woman, by the way.
So Elaine Smith.
Yeah.
Tell me about her. You know? Kind of a normie name.
Well,
Not a name that says FBI agent.
How about Elaine Corbett Smith? Still no?
That makes it less threatening.
What's her full name? Well, she was a very attractive lady, liked the finer things in life. Her memoir is A Gun in My Gucci, which I love.
God, I love this woman.
You would really like her.
In my Gucci?
Mm-hmm. And she was a teacher, in case you didn't like her already, right? She was a grade school teacher. Her husband was, however, an FBI special agent.
And when is this all happening?
So our story is really going to begin, at least at the outset, when the day Elaine Smith goes into a suburban Chicago motel, the summer of 1980.
Okay. Oh, God. And it's in the 80s, too.
So
it's
I
can
in the
picture
80s.
Elaine. What does she look like? Blonde? Brunette?
She's blondish, brownish hair. Dirty blonde, maybe.
Okay.
Very coiffed.
Ask a guy what color hair is. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I'm not an expert on women. Okay.
Okay. She's a babe, though.
Your words, not mine.
Okay.
But yes, I choose not to objectify my female subjects in this way.
Okay. Well,
but
I do.
You do you. But her husband convinced her, you'd be a good FBI agent. And she was. She's smart. She's tough. You know.
I have been waiting for my husband to say that to me.
Hasn't happened yet, has it?
But don't you think I could be good?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think for similar reasons as Elaine. I think you're kindred spirits.
Honestly, way back in the day, not that my politics would align with being an FBI agent, but I did look into, when I had graduated from college, interning with the FBI. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
But I didn't even apply because I wouldn't pass the screening for how many drugs I'd already done.
That is an annoying aspect.
It's really annoying. And you have to take a lie detector.
Yeah, and I could gamble my house away. They're gonna.
I mean, don't you want to know? Don't you want to know that I know?
Right.
Yeah. Isn't that an important experience?
I'm from the streets.
Yeah. Anyway.
I smoked pot in my dorm room.
Don't do acid and try to, become an FBI agent.
Or do.
Carry on.
She did what you could not do.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
She passed the FBI basic training, was hired on as a special agent at 34, which is pretty late for an FBI agent, too.
So there's still time. I'll stop making this about me.
So Elaine
what about her, though, did he think would make her great at it?
She's smart. She's tough. She's dogged. She's jumping in the FBI squad car with curlers in her hair.
Oh, my God.
I mean, she's what you'd want an FBI agent to be. She's just also a relatively slight, attractive woman.
And that probably wasn't very common at the time.
It was not. And in fact, the day that we're going to meet Elaine Smith that we're talking about here, she's on the Organized Crime Bureau in Chicago, her hometown. She's in suburban Chicagoland. And she's told by the male FBI agents she's on a stakeout with, they're in such and such room, right?
Okay.
So she goes up, she knocks on the door. Guy opens the door. The guy is Ken Eto, gambling kingpin of the Chicago outfit. Our main character. And she's face to face with him. She's stunned, flabbergasted. She blurts out.
And this is who she's trying to find.
This is who they're staking out. In fact.
Wow.
She says, "Oh, you're not my husband." She ad-libs nicely.
Oh,
right?
Good one.
Ken Eto closes the door. She goes to the actual room that the FBI agents are peeking out of, and they're laughing at her. They had pulled a prank on the female agent in the detail, giving her Ken Eto's room number, not theirs, right? It's kind of a fun,
so fun.
Fun prank, yeah. But
was that her first time seeing him face to face?
Face to face. This is the first time they meet. But it was not the first she'd heard of him, because when she joined the Organized Crime Bureau, she starts pouring through all of the FBI's files on the Chicago outfit, right?
Okay.
This is the organization that's the Mafia family in Chicago, founded by Al Capone, bequeathed afterwards, and it grows more and more powerful. It's making, by this time in 1980, could be making billions of dollars a year. They have their fingers in everything.
Is it at its height, would you say, at this point?
It's at its height and maybe starting to crest a little, hitting some headwinds.
Okay.
And the FBI in the 80s start really devoting attention to to busting up the mafia, right? So Elaine Smith, it's interesting, the same way that mobsters try to get a racket going that they sort of own, that's theirs. FBI agents have to build cases.
Yep.
They have to find guys to go after and, like anything else.
It's like being a journalist, finding the
Find a story,
raking it.
Absolutely, And so she's pouring through the files and she keeps finding this guy in it who's described as he's 5'5", he's less than 150 pounds. He's the only Japanese American in this organization.
Whoa.
And she thinks, who the fuck is this guy? What is he doing here?
Yeah.
He's from Stockton, California, right? Here's his rap sheet.
He's not from Chicago.
He's not from Chicago. He's this mystery man who comes out of nowhere. And the FBI reports she's going through are bizarre. Redacted advised, Ken Eto, in charge of, operates Bolita Gambling in Chicago. That's the Latin American lottery. It's like numbers, like the policy.
Bolita is?
Bolita. Yeah. It's popular with the Puerto Rican community in Chicago. It's like the lottery. It's the forerunner to the lottery.
Okay.
Right?
So you would play it?
You'd play it. Yeah. You'd pick numbers. They would do a weekly drawing or twice weekly drawing in San Juan, pull it. And then if your number hit, you'd win a prize. Right?
Okay.
But it's grossing millions of dollars a year for the outfit. And source advised Ken Eto growing very rapidly in stature in the Chicago organized crime element because he has the control of that.
He's really a classic mobster in many ways.
Other than the fact that he's, Japanese American, right? But like all this other, it's like he gets arrested at one point in 1973, or excuse me, in 1968. And a Chicago police officer says Eto told him it'd be a waste of time to arrest him because he gives $1,500 a month to a sergeant at the station.
Oh my, naturally.
So Elaine Smith reads this and she goes,
this is our guy.
I have to bust this guy. Because the other thing is he's only served very short amounts of time in prison, right? He had one stint in prison in 1950. He's been investigated a bunch. He's been questioned a bunch.
They've never really gotten him.
Never. And she sees this sleeper, this diamond in the rough that she has to put in prison. And maybe if she can get him to talk, turn informant.
She'll find more.
That this is a really big guy, right? So,
can I just say also that, the female agent identifies the minority member of the mob who's working in minority communities. So she's kind of like game recognized game.
Well, I think that's an important point that he had been overlooked in large part, as maybe not as important because it was so out of the ordinary for a non-white member of the outfit to be considered anything approaching a power.
Right. And is that across, in Chicago, in New York, all over? They're mostly Italian.
Let's start off by saying all mobsters are racist.
Of course.
Terribly racist, okay?
It's sexist. I mean, it's like, we can't even get into it.
They are not woke.
No.
It doesn't matter. Tony Soprano wanted Vito to earn in Atlantic City.
I love the online discourse where they're like, would Tony Soprano have voted for Trump? That's not even a question, okay?
He would have voted for Buchanan.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But look, this is and they were a George W. Bush household. I remember that from the show.
Oh, yeah.
They were not woke. They were quite racist. And New York in particular was very strict on not having any non-Italians rise to any Goodfellas talks about this, right? The Irish mobsters in it, they can't rise above a certain level. Chicago's a little different.
Okay.
Ever since the days of Capone, they were a little more
woke.
They were a little more woke. Yeah. I mean, they had Greeks, they had half Mexican hitmen, they had Poles, they had Jews, they had people with authority who were not fully Italian.
But just to be clear, I make the joke about them being woke. Clearly, they just were like, who better than to go and exploit these minority communities than other minorities? It actually was just a smart tactic. I don't think it was because they were believed in racial equality.
It's really a different kind of capitalism where they think, well, we can make more money doing this, right?
Exactly.
So Ken Eto enters the picture, right, in the 1950s, this mystery man in Chicago. There's one FBI report that says he fell behind on a loan shark's loan, a juice loan, and was beaten up by them and was so tough that they thought, we should keep an eye on this guy. He's got something. Another is that his wife in Chicago, Teresa, Ken Eto's wife in Chicago, Teresa, she was Polish American. She ran a card game. And if you have a card game, you got to kick up to the mob, right? On the north side of Chicago.
What's a card game of just like...
she's running a regular poker game or something that on the north side of Chicago. She pays somebody, and this is how this guy gets into it, right? Now, he's a mystery man. He showed up from nowhere, but they could use him. And at this time in the 1950s, the outfit is moving very aggressively, like you said, into gambling in the minority communities of Chicago. They kill and eliminate many Black and Latino operators of the Bolita racket in the Latino community and the numbers racket in the Black community. And the policy wheel.
And can you talk a little bit about how, I mean, I don't know how the outfit felt about drugs, but I know that there was more sort of, some mobsters wouldn't work in drugs, but gambling was just their bread and butter that's okay. That's
absolutely.
Okay.
And in fact, by the time Elaine Smith is investigating Ken Eto in 1980, he's making so much money from Bolita that he's pouring the proceeds from that into something that's even more lucrative, which is financing cocaine deals.
Got it.
So he's making money hand over fist, and then he's laundering the money through these penny stock schemes out of New York with this white collar crime. So she's seeing just this coast to coast crime empire developing around this guy, right? And
where does he rank?
This is a fascinating question. He's basically as high up as I think someone could be and not be a made man in the outfit, right? Made meaning you do have to be fully Italian to ascend past a certain point.
Wow.
Right?
Really? They wouldn't make exceptions?
But this is basically as high as I've ever seen a non-Italian, especially non-white gangster go in the outfit, But this guy's really one of a kind is my point, And
because Jews, Italians, as someone who's half and half, it's similar. But I feel that being Japanese is very different.
I mean, the construction of whiteness, obviously, Italians, Jews have over time been, led into the church of whiteness.
Yeah.
Not so with Ken Eto, right? So this is a really remarkable figure. And Elaine Smith sets to cracking down on this guy. She cultivates an informant in his operation. And the goal is to get him in the room with the Bolita evidence, meaning tabulating the week's count, the slips, which he does every week in a different motel room somewhere in the Chicago area, right?
So there's nothing illegal about the Bolita. It's just on the surface, right?
It's a minor crime, right?
Yeah.
But they have to get something on
But
this
they know
guy.
that he's doing way worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they have to interrupt this thing. Like when they finally do bust down the door of a motel room in the summer of 1980 and catch him with the slips, he is cool as a cucumber, right?
Of course.
He's calm. The next time Elaine Smith sees him, she tries to talk to him and she's fingerprinting him, taking hair samples at the FBI office. And she sits down with him with a cup of coffee and tries to say, right, I think that you could do a lot of good, helping us out and trying to bust the outfit. And she is surprised. This guy who's really never said anything to her, never says anything to anyone, always has just a smile on his face, takes her hands in his and says, I respect that you have a job you have to do. This is part of your job. I will never talk. I will never tell you anything about, and this is what he's always said to FBI agents. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'm not going to talk about anyone else.
You know what's amazing is that, they wouldn't let him become a made man because of his race, but he actually was very loyal. At least so far. It's like, whoa.
This is the great irony of him, right? Ken Eto seems to embody these Italian mafia ideas of omerta better than a lot of the other guys.
Yeah, totally,
right?
Of course.
And so what Elaine Smith didn't know at that time was, who the fuck was this guy?
Yeah.
Where did he come from? And the answer is very interesting.
Can't wait.
We're going to jump a little closer to home now, which is to Central Valley of California, outside Stockton, a town called Livingston, small farming community. And that is where in 1919, he is born, Ken Eto is born, to a Japanese immigrant family. His father, Mamoru, is what would be called an Issei. Issei being the Japanese immigrants to other countries, right? Ken Eto is a Nisei, second generation, born in America to Japanese immigrants, right? And he's born into a society where there are signs outside of the town saying no Japanese allowed, but where Japanese immigrants are incredibly important to the agricultural economy there.
The parallels that we are seeing are insane.
Spooky.
But I feel as though many people don't know, even Californians, about this part of our history, that there were signs like that.
It's a fascinating thing, and it's wave after wave, right? Like before Japanese immigrants were important in the Central Valley, Chinese laborers have been very important, but they'd started to get organized, get unions, start agitating for better pay in agricultural work. And so the farmers started importing Japanese or hiring Japanese immigrants to undercut them, right? And this is something we see again and again, right? And so guys like Mamoru came over. He was a little bit more educated. He was also older. He was 34 when he emigrated. He's so old, he was a veteran of the Russo-Japanese War, which happened at the turn of the century when Teddy Roosevelt was president. And he also, when he began working in the fields in California, had a religious awakening that turned him into a Christian fanatic.
Oh, okay.
So that happened too. And
does that become important?
It does, because he becomes an insane disciplinarian to his many children, right? Torturous. Ken Eto's mother, on the other hand, is suffering from some sort of mental illness where later in life he can only remember her being in bed, constantly pregnant. And what ends up happening is the family moves to Pasadena, where Mamoru becomes an itinerant preacher as well as a gardener. It becomes very fashionable for some reason in California to have a Japanese gardener. I have no idea. I mean, this is just, again, more creepy, racial fetishizing, right? But at the time that they moved to Pasadena, Los Angeles has a Japantown in the downtown area, segregated from the rest of the community.
And this must have been like them moving on up. I mean, they're moving to LA, to Pasadena, or no? Was it?
I mean, it's a common story for a lot of immigrants, right? You move to the city, and are things better?
No.
As the Great Depression is wearing on, a teenage Ken Eto runs away from home. And he hops around California on his own, again, as a teenager. We're talking 15 years old, working as an itinerant farmhand, as an agricultural laborer in canneries up and down the coast. And that's where he discovers gambling. And this is a way better way of making money than any of that.
Totally.
He has a mind for it because he sits and he just watches people, and he's very quiet and never lets on what he's thinking. And he's very patient. And that is what makes people good gamblers, I think. They're not in it for the excitement so much, right?
They're just observing.
Richard Nixon paid for law school playing poker in the Navy. How did he do it? He said he had an iron ass. You just sit there and play, and wait. And
I would not be good at this.
I mean, I don't think I would either. But he was. So by the time he's 22, he's been drifting around the interior of the United States, up and down the West Coast, getting a little more prosperous. He's in the Seattle area when Pearl Harbor happens in December 1941. And of course, we know what happened there, which is, in fact, starting at Bainbridge Island, Washington, FBI agents start arresting Japanese Americans.
Not for me.
No, not interested. Sure. No, thank you.
No.
Right? They start arresting them. And at first, the incitement in the press, in the media, and in public life is insane against Japanese Americans, right? I mean, it's hideous. And but it comes in waves. Internment did not happen at once. First, there was a curfew, right? Japanese Americans cannot go out after a certain time. And these 2 curfew violations are the first entries on Ken Eto's rap sheet.
Wow.
For being out after. Not anything that's a real crime, but that.
Yeah, and then you see all the crime he did later, and you completely understand, like, why would we expect this person to follow the law when it's been used against them in these racist, horrific ways?
A federal prosecutor I interviewed for the story, said he always wondered what life would have been like for Ken Eto had he not been interned. And because that's what happened in 1942, there's an order issued that no Japanese Americans can live in the civil defense area, aka the West Coast of the United States. 120,000 Japanese Americans ultimately would be sent to about a dozen concentration camps further east, forced to live in barns at first, and then shipped on to places like Minidoka, which is where Ken Eto went, in Idaho. Most desolate place you've ever seen. It was not even finished when people started arriving in these tar paper shacks, living in terrible heat during the day, awful cold at night. And he's there for 1 to 2 years. And his family, meanwhile, is imprisoned in Arizona in another internment camp. He's been separated them for some time. And then something interesting starts to happen. As the war in the Pacific proceeds and the United States is winning, they start to think, all right, maybe we can start letting some of these Japanese Americans out. Steve Eto, Ken Eto's son, who I also interviewed, said his father, he heard one story that his father got out of Minidoka by lying that he was Chinese American. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if it is, it also sets up the career that he's developing as a con artist,
right? Which
is another thing that he's working on. But something interesting happens, which is Ken Eto is eventually released, and there is a questionnaire that was given to Japanese Americans in the camps.
Oh, God.
Which I find fascinating.
I'm scared.
Question number 20. What is your plan for mixing into the community to which you will resettle? Well,
Mixing.
Another fascinating and forgotten thing that happened was Japanese Americans, even when released, could not really go back to the places that they were from. There was nothing left. Their businesses, their homes have been seized. And in fact, there was significant pressure from the federal government for them to move to cities where there had been no Japanese American population.
Wow. They're like any sense of community or comfort.
They want to smash that. They don't want that anymore. They want them to go to cities where there's never been Japanese Americans before so that they can't rebuild those Japantowns, right?
That's horrible.
And guess what one of those cities is?
Chicago.
Of course. Lakeview, Chicago becomes, this is on the north side of Chicago, exactly in near the Rush Street corridor, which is the nightlife section of Chicago, where there's all this gambling and the sex trade and all this. Lakeview, north of that, becomes a Japanese American community. And it becomes a place where Japanese Americans can settle as a buffer between the white communities and the black communities to the south side, which during the war had gained economic power because they were doing so much work. So what is your plan for mixing into the community you'll resettle? He's going to go with everyone else. He's going to marry Teresa, the Polish American there. They're going to live in Lakeview.
That was pretty edgy for the time, no?
Yeah, it was an interracial marriage,
right.
And Steve Eto talked to me about, his mother, Judith, was Ken Eto's second wife. He met her at one of the nightclubs on Rush Street that Ken Eto became king of the rooster.
Chasing at.
Exactly. Bought a bottle of cheap champagne for her. And 9 months later, Steve was born, as he said. And, it fits, right? Question number 21. Do you know what clubs and organizations would welcome you? Well, the Mafia. The Mafia would
literally no one else.
Yep.
That's really important, too. This guy, even before all of this happened, had pretty much a broken family.
Yeah.
So you can see the appeal. When you're not allowed to have your own community, you don't naturally have a community. And then suddenly there's literally a family that says, hey, you can make a lot of money.
And they really
come hang with us.
They really treated him as one of their friends. It was not just, I cannot emphasize enough how odd that is,
At the time. Yeah.
It's another question. Will you try to develop such American habits which will cause you to be accepted readily into American social groups?
Oh, my God.
Well, because he starts setting up bolita operators.
Yeah, an American habit. Gambling. Let's go.
He is getting in quick with them, He's involved in at least 4 homicides in the 1950s.
Well, he has nothing to lose, it seems.
He served time briefly in Idaho in 1950 for a con scheme that he ran. And he seems a model of reform in prison, right? He only serves a year on like a 12-year sentence. And the parole report is amazing because it says, oh, he seems to have learned his lesson and he vows never to go back to prison, which they misinterpreted what he was saying when he said, I'm not going back to prison. It's, I'm going to keep committing crime.
This, you're not going to catch me.
You're never going to catch me again, right?
Yeah.
And so, so he is evading all of this, rising in the underworld, but then this arrest changes everything. So at the time that he's in his early 60s now, 1983, he's been arrested. He's going to serve a year or two in prison. But he runs into something unexpected. Like I said, like you noted, he seems to embody these beliefs and codes of the mafia better than a lot of these other guys.
Yeah, maybe you can explain what omerta means and is.
Code of silence, you know? Like, it's one of those Sicilian things, as Kay says in The Godfather. But what I thought was interesting was that it mirrored some similar Japanese concepts that people talked about a lot coming out of the camps. Shikata ganai, I'm sure I'm mangling that, but that's a Japanese concept. It cannot be helped. It has to be endured. That's what it means. So this horrible situation we find ourselves in, we have to somehow get through it with dignity, right?
Wow.
It's this concept and without complaint, which there's some other similar ideas, gaman, gambaru, these ideas of like dignity and perseverance
through pain and suffering. And let's talk a little bit about his temperament and personality. I mean, it doesn't seem, and perhaps this is wrong, but it doesn't seem like he has like a hairpin anger trigger. He seems very composed. Everyone
I've talked to on this noted that he seemed very low-key, mild-mannered, but that they also didn't think that that's how he actually was.
Oh, interesting.
Steve Eto told me an anecdote from around this time that he was being bullied at school. And so his father recommended bringing a weapon to school with him. That was his father's advice to him, Now, Steve Eto gets bullied again. He pulls out this corkscrew, pops it in this kid's arm, and pulls it out. The police show up at Steve Eto's house that he shares with his mother, Judith, and Ken Eto comes over and talks to them. Makes the police go away, which is
naturally
interesting.
I wonder how that happened.
And then father-son chat, sits down with Steve, says, if you're going to do that, kill the guy. Because if you kill him, I can get you off. But if you only wound him, you'll make an enemy for life.
Wow. But that also says it all about how the mob works. And how they're tied to the
and how
cops.
Ken Eto works, right? And that's another thing, right? The police corruption. The other thing Elaine Smith knows is this guy's protected by the police, right?
And do they know who's doing it? No, they don't know who it is yet.
That's another issue. That's another can of worms, right? But at this time, as Ken Eto is preparing to plead no contest or stip bench, as they call stipulated bench warrant, basically no contest, he's going to serve probably a year or two in prison.
And what is this for? The bully
on the gambling charges, And Ken Eto, as he's made clear to the FBI, can do this standing on his head.
He's also been in an internment camp.
This is nothing to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he says to Elaine Smith, and she doesn't fully grasp the meaning at that time. But this guy has been through way worse.
Yeah, way worse.
So he goes to meet with his boss's boss, Vince Solano. Vince Solano is the head of the North Side crew. This, he's an upper middle manager, I would say, right? And he oversees everything. He meets with Ken Eto once a month, and they meet at their usual spot, IHOP. Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity, the smiley face pancakes.
Totally, I know. I've heard of it.
That. Is it Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity, or is that?
I have no idea.
Write in on which breakfast chain that is.
Let us know.
Let us know. They meet. They go for a walk outside, and Ken Eto instantly notices something is off. Vince Solano is jumpy. He's acting weird. Now, Vince Solano was always a cautious guy. He looks like a bookkeeper. He has glasses, but he's a vicious guy himself. He started canceling their Christmas parties because he didn't want the FBI watching. He's a real
piece of work.
He's a piece of work, but he's all jumpy.
Okay.
And he acts like he thinks he's being followed. At one point, Ken Eto reaches for some cigarettes in his pocket and he says, "What's that?"
Okay, so something's off.
Something is weird.
Yeah.
And so not long after that, Ken Eto gets told, you're going to meet with Vince Solano for dinner.
Oh, God. Okay.
Now,
anytime you're asked to meet for dinner.
In the 3 decades he's been working for Vince Solano, he has never been invited to dinner with him.
We know what that means, don't we?
And Ken Eto knows what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And listener, you should know what that means.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, what's going to happen?
1-800, come on now. You know?
Yeah.
So Ken Eto's a smart cookie. He knows they're gonna kill him.
Yeah.
Goes back to his car.
And they're going to kill him because they think he's probably going to flip, right?
Is
that the idea?
And this is what is so frustrating. They didn't know him at all after all these years.
And how much do you think that is part of the racism too? Like, he's not one of us, so he's obviously... Or do you think they would have done that to an Italian?
I think this is... We'll answer that question a little bit.
But just, I'm ruminating, you know?
Remember that, listener. But what Ken Eto does is very interesting, which is, even though he is now certain he is going to be assassinated when he goes to that meeting, he goes. He goes home.
Wow.
Right? He gets his life insurance in order in a place for his third wife to find.
He's on number 3.
He's on 3. He takes a bath, puts on his best suit, tells his wife where the stuff is, how to get some extra money, tie up some loose ends, business deals. And he says, I'm going to meet my friends. I hope they're happy. He goes, he drives over, picks up 2 of Solano's men. They direct him where to drive to.
I mean, he's basically just like walking into his death fearlessly, which is kind of incredible.
It's quite remarkable. And he's right, because they direct him to a parking lot. He parks the car, and the goon in the back seat raises a .22 to the back of Ken Eto's head, point blank range, fires 3 times into his head, and they flee the car.
Wow.
And is that the end of the story?
Oh my God.
No,
it
is not the end of the story. Sorry, too loud? Ken Eto gets hit.
This is insane.
Are you ready to go to Crazy Town?
I'm ready. I'm taking a sip of my coffee to prepare.
You know, I'm going to do that too. It's good to have dead air, right?
Okay.
Let
take
that
a deep breath.
sink in.
Okay, he's been shot 3 times in the head.
On the first shot, the shot hits his head and he thinks, later says.
He thinks with the bullet in his head.
Well, I was right. I swear to God. He says, well, yep.
There it is.
I knew it. It was a hit.
Okay.
The second shot hits, and he goes,
that doesn't feel good.
Doesn't feel good. Having some trouble hearing now.
Okay.
However, sorry, I'm getting a little animated. Second shot hits. He goes, I'm not dead. That's interesting, you know.
This is amazing.
So he starts to go like that.
So he's smart enough to be like, I'm going to pretend to be dead, even though I'm not dead.
Third shot hits. He keels over on the front seat.
He's an actor, too.
He can do it. He's a triple threat. Okay?
Okay.
Gambler, killer, actor. You know?
What can he do?
What can he do? He slumps over. He hears, as he later says, the sounds of their feet running away.
Hold on. The shots all hit him in the head, all 3. And he doesn't die immediately.
Great question. Happy to answer that.
Okay.
The .22 caliber handgun is a favorite of the Chicago underworld. Okay? It's the one professionals use, right? If you get a .22 to the back of the head, that's the closest thing to euthanasia you can get in the Chicago underworld. It means we liked you.
We don't want you to suffer.
We don't want you to suffer, but it was time for you to go.
So they have different guns they use depending on how they feel about the person.
And it's not going to come out the front of your head.
Okay.
You'll probably have an open casket funeral.
The fact that you have all this knowledge is sick.
I'm a deeply disturbed man.
You really are. Continue.
But this is the nice way of doing it. And they gave that to Ken Eto, right?
Oh, how kind of them.
I know.
We're going to execute you.
We're going to execute you in a nice way. But here's the problem with the 22. 22 is obviously a low caliber handgun. And in this case, we don't know for certain. It appears to be a revolver because no bullet casings were found in the car later. They think either the ammunition was bad, which can happen when it's old, or the hitmen remove some of the gunpowder from the rounds, which you can also do. The reason you would do that is you make it quieter.
Okay.
But it lowers the velocity of the bullets. So here is literally what fucking happened. And it's incredible. The bullets hit the back of his head and kind of glance off it. They go under the skin and exit, but they do not crack the skull.
That's insane.
So it's like
all three?
Boom, 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 like that.
Just skinning the top.
Like pinballing off. And
but it also feels like he really is superhuman. Like the bullets don't even penetrate him.
Can you be tougher than taking 3 bullets to the head and surviving? No. I mean, he staggers out of the car.
50 Cent found shaking.
50 Cent wishes this had happened to him. Okay?
Okay.
All right? In the club or not. But look, he staggers
in the IHOP.
In the IHOP. That's the remix. Staggers to his feet, covered in blood, gets to a pharmacy, calls for help. He can't hear anything. He has a terrible concussion and headache. The ambulance comes. A police squad car rolls up. He grabs the rookie cop from the car and says, "Get in the ambulance with me. I'm worried they'll kill me on the way to the hospital."
Oh my God.
Because he's already calculating the odds. He's like, I survived. I was not supposed to survive.
That's insane.
I went to my death willingly, but they fucked it up, right?
Yeah.
So now
that's on them.
It's totally on them. But I'm in this purgatory now where I don't know quite what to do. He's in his hospital room at Northwest Hospital, and the FBI and police swarm over there.
Yes. So what's happening with Elaine Smith during this whole time?
Elaine Smith is woken up by a phone call. She's on a ski trip, of all things.
Yes. And has she thought, okay, we got him for this gambling. Yeah. We're good.
I mean, he's going to prison. I wish he'd turned rat, but he didn't do it,
right.
She gets a call from her supervisor. Ken Eto's been shot. Do you have any idea who would do this? And she rattles off a few names, including the actual hitman.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious.
She guesses correctly who it is, right? But they don't know that for sure. And what they're realizing, it's now like 11:30 that night. They're realizing if we don't figure out soon who these gunmen were, the outfit is going to hit them.
Oh, God.
And then we're not going to be able to build a case off this.
Right. We need to get them.
But they're talking to him and they realize Ken Eto, even with a big bandage around his head,
concussion,
and all this, blood seeping through him, they're also having to yell at him so he can hear it. So there's it's this bizarre, surreal scene. He needs immunity from prosecution before he's going to be willing to talk. That's when they call him.
I also love that they tried to kill him to avoid him becoming a rat, but then in this attempt, basically forced him to become one.
It was essentially the only way they could have turned him into a rat.
Yeah.
I mean.
It's incredible. Is this a movie?
Not yet.
Not yet. Call us.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Okay, and Elaine Smith must be stoked because, she probably thinks this is going to be my career-making moment if I get him.
She had an interesting reaction too, which is who would want to shoot him? She's like, he wasn't going to talk.
I know.
Like that was her first reaction. Like, why would anyone shoot him? He wasn't going to talk,
Yeah.
But they correctly realize he needs immunity. They call in Jeremy Margolis, who's a federal prosecutor and who I interviewed for the story. Margolis goes to the hospital room. Eto kicks everyone out but this guy, right? So he zeroes in on the guy who can give him immunity, right? Now, interestingly, Margolis, he's a young guy. He's half Eto's age, right? But he's also a judo practitioner. So he loves Japanese culture of all things. Of all the prosecutors in the country, they got this guy, right? And he goes in there and he makes the pitch to Eto. He's like, you got to tell us or they're going to hit who tried to hit you. And then we won't be able to take revenge. But he says, lawyers, they're so good at if you're good lawyers pitching something, like they're cooking with gas, And And he says exactly what you said, which is, and here's what he says. It was wrong what they tried to do to you.
Yeah.
Right? You held up your end of the bargain.
Fuck them. We're going to get their ends.
We can get revenge for you, but we can only do that if you talk to us. And here's another thing. You know as well as I know, they only did this because you're Japanese. Right? They would never have done this to one of their other guys, you know?
Now, do you think, I mean, clearly he's using that to manipulate Eto, but do you think it's true too?
Here's what's interesting about this conversation. Eto is sitting there. He's not saying anything. And Margolis told me he didn't feel like he was telling him anything he didn't already know. Right? So it was just on him whether he felt he could trust this guy to go that route because he hasn't said anything yet. And once he says anything, it's over. He's an informant, period.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's turning his back on his whole life, basically, you know? But what he feels like he gets across to Eto is he didn't do anything wrong in the Mafia rules, and they did.
So fuck them. Agreed.
And also, if you want to stay alive now, you got to help us. You know?
Yeah, he doesn't really have a choice. They forced him to rat.
Yeah. And he's still not sure if he can totally trust him. And then there's this incredible fucking part where Margolis says, all right, here's my badge, and here's your hand. And he clasps it over it like that. Okay, and you think that's not cinematic enough.
Oh, this is so good.
He's sitting on the hospital bed with him. Eto's hands are covered in blood because he keeps touching his bandage. So now there's blood on the badge, right?
You can't write this shit.
I mean, I did.
He did, and he won an award. I'm surprised it's taken this long. I got it in for you. I got it in.
I mean, Hollywood, you listening?
Yeah. Okay. So there's blood on the badge. The hands are shaking.
I mean, scene, Finn, you know?
Although it's like, we're swearing and shaking on the badge of the law, which this guy really respects.
I mean, come on, you know.
Come on.
But here's the really funny thing. So he agrees. He gives up the names of the hitmen. And Margolis goes outside the hospital room. And here's the really funny part. Everyone in the hallway bursts out in applause. Why? Because Margolis was having to yell so loudly that they knew what had happened already.
Oh my God.
They could hear it from the hallway. So he gives up the names of the hitmen. They bring the hitmen in. They try to break them, right? One of them, the older one, is arrogant. He tells Margolis to fuck off. He says, you know,
no.
I'm neighbors with the boss of the outfit. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to get a pass. While they're being held in jail on huge bail, he tries to have the younger one killed in a prison shanking.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, they're not even safe in prison.
No.
Definitely not.
Right? Because this is for this to go forward, Operation Sunup, as they call it, taking down the North Side crew for the Ken Eto hit. If this is going to work, they got to turn at least one of the hitmen. Right?
Okay.
So the older one tells him to fuck off. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He's going to get a pass. The younger one is stupid and sad. And he's a loser. And this is the only life he's ever known. He's married to a woman who is a mafia princess. Margolis told me he felt like he almost got through to him at one point. But unlike Eto, this guy could not turn his back on this. He didn't have that gambler's instinct to like fold, you know?
Right. To know when.
No one to fold him, no one to hold him, as Kenny Rogers sang. And so another surprise happens. They're being held, and again, this is 1983. They're being held on almost $2 million bail each.
Wow.
A lot of money. And they post it. Okay,
that's what's going on. That says a lot.
Now, how did these two losers post enough money for bail to get out?
The outfit.
They wanted them on the street. They wanted them within reach.
Boom.
Right?
So, but they know that, right? Like when they're being offered this, they know I either rat or I die. So there is some valor there.
I mean, I think that there's self-delusion in many forms, right?
Yeah.
The older one of them thinks, I'm going to get a pass. I'm a soldier. Everyone knows me. I'm not going to be blamed for it. The younger guy's going to be blamed for it. He was the trigger man. The younger guy thinks, maybe there's some way I can get out of this, you know? Maybe as the outfit's one account I read, the outfit is saying, we'll get you to Italy. right? We'll get you out of the country.
We'll set you up. Yeah, right.
But so as Elaine Smith is debriefing Eto, she meets him at the naval base he's being held at for protection.
Okay. Is he recovered at this point?
He's recovering. He's getting better. And
finally, she's meeting her man.
Exactly. She walks into the room. He says, you're the lady who runs everything. Now he's finally talking, And
he's free.
He's in a way, not exactly, but yeah, it's like,
yeah, he can chat.
He says, you must have been happy this happened. And she was like, no, I wasn't, but he explains to her, I knew I was going to my death. I thought maybe I had an edge. I had to take it, but they muffed it up. And as he tells his son, Steve, when he comes to visit him, I did as they said, I went to my death and they muffed it up. Now it's my turn.
Wow.
So he starts giving him his history of the outfit in Chicago. He closes the 4 homicides that they linked him to.
He really knew a lot.
He knew a lot. He gives him this map of the underworld that's very useful, right? And is going to be very useful for future prosecutions, right? But the problem is the following July, 1983, it's a good thing. The FBI, the one form of evidence they're looking for in Ken Eto's Torino, his car, is hair evidence. If they can match hair evidence to the 2 hitmen, they got him, right?
Okay.
And they do. They match hairs from each of them to the headrests of the cars. They tell the attorneys for the 2 hitmen, both of whom are Mafia attorneys, I should add. And then suddenly the 2 hitmen disappear. They're found a few days later in the trunk of a Volvo. And they didn't get the Ken Eto deal.
No.
The 22 to the back of the head. They got the deal you get when you fuck up really bad. And
what deal is that?
Here's that deal. It looks something like, and I say this as someone who's seen the crime scene photos, to my regret.
Oh, God.
It looks like you were stabbed repeatedly in the abdomen, choked, strung up. The garrote is still around your neck.
Oh, God.
These 2 guys are stuffed with their pants pulled down into the trunk of this car. And then the triple-digit heat has made them like twice as large.
Okay. So that paints a beautiful picture.
There you go.
Got it.
This is how, and I should add, it's not like they disappear. They want them to be found.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
They're sending a message.
So
they're done.
This is it. This is what happens when you fuck up, right? Now, this interrupts the hope of snaring the entire North Side crew in it. They can't link it to Vincent Solano now. But what they can do with Ken Eto's intelligence is hound the outfit by having him testify in basically every fucking mob trial thereafter.
Wow.
Right?
And he's in witness protection now. Where is he?
He's all over the country. He goes to a few places. He's running restaurants mostly. And, witness protection is not fun. It is not easy. And most of the guys cannot adjust to it. And I really think because of his background, he's able to, even though he's very poor, he doesn't have much money, he really does it without complaint. And he testifies in the Kansas City trial that busts up outfit control of the casinos in Las Vegas. He testifies in the Good Ship Lollipop case, which put away a bunch of really vicious hitmen. There's a funny moment in that where he waves to the defendants and they wave back like they're still friends.
Wow.
Which is so cute. And, he testifies to the Senate in this crazy black executioner's hood. And they also, a Senate subcommittee, and they also drag Vincent Solano in front of that, and he's sweating and worming out.
So how does he, I don't know, I guess to go from this guy that just had so much money to living in witness protection, can you talk a little bit more about, his background and how you think that he could make that transition back so easily?
I think it was because he was so used to being from nothing. And look, I don't want to excuse this guy. He was kind of a piece of trash, as Elaine Smith said.
I mean, yeah.
Look, it's important to mention, the other Japanese Americans in Lakeview, Chicago, viewed him with contempt.
Really?
As a plague upon their community.
Totally. They're
right?
like, you're making us look bad.
But he had an incredible memory. He appeared to tell the truth, as much more so than Mafia informants tend to. And he had a terrific recall, right? And so he was able to testify faithfully. And I think the way he was able to get used to that poverty was that's what he'd come from.
Right.
And he had this thing of sort of enduring the unendurable, And so there is a nice postscript to this, which is in the late 90s, after a certain point, with all these mobsters put away or dead and the outfit significantly weaker, Elaine Smith gets him a retirement lump sum of about $250,000.
Wow.
Delivers it to him in Hawaii. And
hand delivers.
And he lives quietly off that the rest of his life. Ken Eto's daughter is with them, and she mentions to Elaine Smith at one point, because they'd become very close over the course of debriefing, he considers you a daughter.
That's so sweet.
And
does this make her career?
She had a terrific career. Yeah, she retired from the FBI and has a wonderful family and granddaughter and daughter and had a terrific career. And Ken Eto got to take that money, go off to Georgia, and peacefully spend his days fishing.
Wow, just as a normal guy.
He would go to Dunkin'. He was the old guy at Dunkin' Donuts every morning.
So when you see that guy, you never know. You never know the lore.
This guy was put
some respect on the Dunkin' Donuts old man.
He's going to his neighbor's quinceanera. I'm serious. That's the last photo of him that we see.
And he's able to get. Okay, here's my question. He's able to give up fully? Because we see these mobsters, it's almost like this sociopathic addiction or impulse to crime.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Yes, he had come from nothing. Maybe he could get used to that. But how did he get used to just the boringness of not breaking the law anymore?
Look, it doesn't mean that he didn't become not a criminal, right?
Yeah.
But in the sense of the criminal mentality, the last time Steve saw him didn't sound particularly, he still had that street mindset,
Yeah.
That's who he was, right?
So what's an example?
I mean, he dropped a car off for him and he was kind of still an angry guy.
Right.
He's a gangster. But I think he was able to adjust in a way most of these guys cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And also, got toys for the kids next door and that sort of thing. And, he had this interesting
People
duality.
Are very nuanced.
There's a lot. There's none so queer as folk.
That's true.
But all that's to say, at the end of the day, after an obituary appeared in the Atlanta newspapers for an 84-year-old restaurateur named Joe Tanaka.
Oh, that was his new name.
Mm-hmm. That 2004, when he passed away, or 2003, there was a new moral panic setting in about Muslim Americans, of course, right?
Right.
Not that different from what he had endured earlier in his life. And I find so interesting that the Mafia did the same thing to him that Japanese Americans writ large had happened to them, which was suspicion on no grounds, right?
Yep.
Necessitating this vicious overreaction, And no Japanese Americans committed treason, over Pearl Harbor or during the war. It didn't happen. It wasn't a thing, He wasn't going to rat them out,
yeah. And we see this again and again. I mean, it's like the mob did it in this case, but
yeah, and
it's just a metaphor for everything.
I hope so, and I hope that there's a model too for a way back, which is Ronald Reagan, of all people, apologized for Japanese internment officially. George H.W. Bush issued reparations. And one of the most insane parts of this story is the first person to receive a reparation check at this ceremony by the Attorney General was Ken Eto's father.
Wow.
Mamoru, who was over 100 years old in a wheelchair. Here you had the Attorney General bowing before him, giving him a check while his son was in witness protection.
That is insane.
Bonkers.
This is a true American story.
It is the most American story.
It really is, actually.
Yeah. And, but obviously what we're having going on today, the pretext for these ICE raids is organized crime.
Right.
Oh, we have to get rid of MS-13. They can't scrape together 2 of these fucking guys,
No.
right? They're throwing out barbers and union construction workers into these concentration
camps. All based on
camps.
paranoia that isn't real.
Just hitting this quota, right?
Right.
We have to get this many people. We have to arrest the guys doing day labor outside a Home Depot. It's just pure racism.
You know what I love? We never learn any lessons, it seems.
It seems like...
It's just like the same thing over and over again with different characters.
We don't have to solve this today.
We don't. We're not going to solve this today. We're not going to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
But wait, no, what happened to... Okay, how about this? Steve
Eto.
His kid.
All right, I'll give you a nice postscript.
Okay,
There we go on
okay.
Steve Eto. When I spoke to Steve Eto, nice guy, lives in the Midwest, talked with him. And, he talked about, look, he had a complicated...
How old is he when you interviewed him?
He's now like his father's age when the shooting happened, And, he said, like you said, his father was a complicated man, but he loved him. And I think that we can all relate to that, that these people, like you said, are complex, are nuanced, and he's proud for it. Steve Eto's son has a tattoo of the Chicago skyline with Tokyo Joe on it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very...
Which is
sweet.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it's complicated.
It's complicated, baby.
I wish I had something more eloquent to say.
That's my Facebook stat.
We are millennials.
That's how you know.
Mm-hmm. I'm a millennial. All right, I admit it. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.